Yesterday, Lord Robertson, head of Britain's Strategic Defence Review and former chief of NATO, came out and said we need to fight Russia with the gloves off. And to be very honest, for the last 2.5 years, despite the billions of military aid that the West has pumped into Ukraine, we have not been fighting with the gloves off, nor allowing Ukraine to fight with the gloves fully off. Our approach has been characterized by incrementalism, constantly being cowed by Putin's thinly veiled nuclear threats, and a fear of crossing what is perceived as Putin's red lines. Let's have a look at a few of these red lines. Modern battle tanks were a red line. Well, the Brits broke that one in 2023, February, with the supply of 14 Challengers. Long-range artillery was supposed to be a red line. Again, Britain broke that in May 2023 with the provision of Storm Shadow. And again, less than a month ago, the British government said that Storm Shadow could now be used to strike Russian targets behind Russian lines, i.e. in Russian territory. Again, a supposed red line to which the Kremlin has not reacted. But I think the biggest red line of all is possibly NATO membership. And you will remember that great Russian lie that it was NATO expansion up to Russia's borders and eastward that had caused Russia to invade Ukraine in the first place. We hear this all the time, and we hear it amplified by useless idiots. Well, let's look what happened when we were discussing the accession of Sweden and Finland last year. Finland, when they finally joined NATO, with a border of 1,340 kilometers with Russia. And what is the first thing Russia did? They withdrew all their troops from the Finnish border. Look, we live in a world that is probably more dangerous than any time since 1945. And with political developments in the United States at the moment, it is clear we can no longer rely on America as a reliable security partner. Only yesterday, John Bolton was interviewed in the UK, John Bolton being Donald Trump's former security advisor in 2019. And he was asked, in his opinion, would Donald Trump, a second President Donald Trump, withdraw the US from NATO? He did not have any hesitation in saying yes. He also questioned the fact that we were having conversations around 2.5% of GDP to be spent on defence, and said 3% should be a minimum. This was his opinion, but it's an opinion that's reflected by many of our respected ex-generals and diplomats in the UK at the moment. So look, we face a quartet of enemies in China, Russia, Iran and North Korea, who are determined to undo our rules-based order and replace it with their own new order. What Sergei Lavrov called in 2017 the post-West era. Think for a moment of the qualities of freedom and democracy that do not pertain in those countries, and imagine a world dominated by their post-West era. So I'm afraid it's time to, as Lord Robertson would say, take the gloves off, give the Ukrainians every single weapon they need, and remove all restrictions from how they use those weapons. And because this begins and ends in Ukraine, we must defeat Russia in Ukraine. That is the key to everything else.